like these, it's not enough that it happened, but it was a very normal, I would suspect, visitation.
We would go by our dad on the weekends.
Yeah.
So every Friday we would leave after school and we would come back Sunday evening.
Yeah.
In enough time to,
Get ready for school
the next day. So it was just a normal weekend.
That was the expectation. That, like, this is the normal.
But they would fight all the time, like fist fight. Not just like arguing that you can hear on the other side of the wall.
Wow.
But fighting,
So I respectfully, even as you recall it now, there's like this, hear me out, it's like a tone of normalcy. Like this was the environment, this is how it was, and this is what I was used to.
I don't even know what to say about that except for that's what I was used to.
Welcome to the Dear Son podcast. This is typically a safe space for men to have vulnerable conversations about the fatherhood journey. What I do recognize is that there are no men, there are no fathers without the mothers that birthed them. So for Women's Month, it is a theme. Got my first female, can we say female? We can't say female, we say woman. We got our first.
You shouldn't say female?
You shouldn't say female, cool. I'm not even taking it out, I'm just acknowledging that I shouldn't say that. All right, got the first woman guest on this podcast because I think it's important. Sade Benson, welcome to the Dear Son podcast.
Thank
How are
you
you?
for having me. I'm good. I'm always good.
Always
no
good.
No complaints.
That is true. I've known you for a short amount of time and your attitude is always good. Where did that come from?
I don't have time to be in a slump.
Yeah.
I don't have time to be upset. I mean, I get upset, I have my moments, but it's just a moment. I can't let it linger. I just got too much to do to be upset. It takes too much energy to frown. Like, I'm just not, it's not happening.
Gotcha. I'm gonna have to adopt that. Definitely gonna have to try to get some more smilage in my life. I think my family will appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's get the elephant out the room. That accent is
New Orleans.
Thick. New Orleans.
New Orleans, Louisiana.
New Orleans. Born and raised?
Born and raised. I was actually raised right outside of New Orleans, like 20 minutes outside. It's called Violet, Louisiana. But I've lived in every city in New Orleans possible.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's let the audience in on the secret. You're my podcast sister. We're in a development group that is going through the paces to get better at podcasting. So that's how we came into contact.
Yep.
Before we get into it, I definitely want to give you the floor to highlight your podcast and Crown. Let's talk about that because everybody needs to know. We're going to have to insert some exclusive footage about that.
Yeah. So my podcast is the story behind the CEO podcast. So what I do is I inspire up-and-coming entrepreneurs to show them basically that success is obtainable by bringing on different CEOs to tell their backstory, their struggles, let them know they're just like you. If I can do it, you can do it, and allow them to be vulnerable and open to the audience so that they don't think that is something that they can't reach.
Right. So you're on the right podcast if you talking vulnerability and transparency. Those are the only requirements of this podcast. And you got to be willing to help somebody. So that's why we tell these stories.
Absolutely.
It's not to sensationalize anything. So let's talk about your family dynamic. How did you grow up? 2 parents in the house, 1 parent in the house. What was that situation like?
That situation was so I grew up with my parents and both parents in my home for like maybe the first 4 years. And then it was just my mother and my siblings and myself. My parents, they divorced when I was 4. So when I was 8, I want to say she told me that my dad wasn't my dad. Like he wasn't biologically my dad.
Wow.
So I have his last name. He signed my birth certificate. He named me. He took care of me, everything. He knew, she knew, I just didn't. Everybody knew, I just didn't know. Yeah. And I think she waited until she felt like I was mature enough to understand what was going on. So she explained to me who my dad was, and it was actually a guy who lived with us. It was her boyfriend at the time. Well, they would kind of go back and forth, but she was like, this is actually your dad. You know what I'm saying? So we had a relationship too, but I just didn't look at him like my dad because I had a dad.
Yeah. So in that moment, you said you were about 8?
8,
when you had that information. How did you process that as an 8-year-old? Do you even remember like how it impacted you finding out that your dad wasn't biologically your father, and what did it change?
It just made me, it didn't really change much. It made me curious. And so I was able to, early on, I'm able to understand, like, my dad is very sensitive. So it's certain things he don't want to talk about. He doesn't really want to say. So I know I kind of want to ask him because my mom told me, but then my dad didn't say anything about it. I don't even think he knew she said anything.
Wow.
So I would go over there like on weekends and I asked him, so my biological dad, we're like the same color. My mom is chocolate. My dad is chocolate. All of my siblings are chocolate. I was the only light-skinned or lighter one in the house.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I would ask my dad, like, how come everybody else is a different color than me? Like, why am I the lightest one? And he said, well, it's all about genes. And I knew what it meant. I just wanted him to tell me.
Yeah.
So I would say, like the genes I have on? He was like, no, like genetics, like DNA. And I was like, I don't understand. And he said, well, it's not a conversation I even want to have.
Wow.
So he never even wanted to tell me that.
How did you, is that still, number one, I want to be respectful.
No, go ahead.
Are they both still living?
Yes. Both of my dad. My mom isn't, but both of my dads are.
Okay. Is it still a taboo topic today?
He don't want to talk about that. He does not want to talk because in his mind, this is my child and that's it. Gotcha. I do not want to have a discussion about another man. He even goes as far as being petty about it. Like, my dad does. Me and my dad have the best relationship ever. Like, he has been there since day one. So he does everything for us, like just anything. Like, we moved into the house. He's like, I'll buy you a refrigerator. I'm going to put a play set in the backyard for the boys. Like, just stuff like just everything.
Yeah.
If I'm crying and if I call him and I sound too upset, he's coming.
Right.
Because he feel like you might not be telling me something, so I need to see you.
Yeah.
You know, so he knows that my biological dad doesn't do half as much as he does. And my biological dad actually only lives like 5 minutes from me.
Wow.
And my dad lives like 40 minutes out. So it was something delivered to my house that I couldn't put inside. My husband was gone. And so I called my dad, like, I need you to come. Stop doing what you're doing. Yeah. I have to go to work, so I need you to bring this in the house. I can't pick it up. I can't carry it. The guy who delivered it said they can't bring it in the house. They have to leave it outside. So he comes to pick it up and he makes a joke like, oh, why you didn't call this one around the corner because you know who the real man is. Like, you know, he does stuff like that to be petty. But it's also to let me know, like, I got you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's how I take it.
Yeah. How do you know much about your dad? And I want to be clear, when we say your dad, we're not talking about
my biological?
No.
My dad.
Your dad, the one that's been there 45 minutes away, always coming. How much do you know about how he was raised or brought up in his family? Was that a part of your, like, were you part of that family too?
Yeah. Okay. So my grandfather, my dad's dad, my grandfather and I was super close before he passed away. So, you know, I just always thought he had like the best life ever because my grandfather was just like my dad, like the man, you know? Yeah. So, you know, you don't see the struggles and all the crazy stuff when you're coming up. You think about it more when you're older. I just knew I had a great support system with my dad, my grandfather. Before my grandfather passed, if my dad wasn't agreeing with something I wanted to do, I would get on the phone and call my grandfather, like, your son is tripping. You know, help me out here. Yeah. You know, I switched schools and everything. My grandfather called. He was like, if she doesn't want to go, don't make her go. Yeah. Pull her out, put her somewhere else. You know, that was the relationship that we had. And so that was kind of from what my dad said, how it was with them, with them growing up. But my grandparents had divorced early on as well. Okay. You know, so that's about as much as I know about it. Again, those things are just touchy subjects for him. Yeah. And we only talk about the good things, and like that's it. And that's because of him, not me, because I'll be okay with, you know, but he doesn't. He's very sensitive with those kind of things. He don't want to say anything.
How does it impact the way that you interact? Is it just something that you can compartmentalize and, you know, we don't go there on certain things, or do you want to have these conversations?
I'm getting to the point where I'm trying to pull those conversations out of him.
Okay.
Both of my dads actually, because we had a conversation maybe a month ago. So I'm doing that for me.
Sure.
For my journey, and to understand more about myself, understand more about my mom, you know, because my mom passed away when I was 9. So, so it's like all these different questions now I have to ask. And I think me and my biological, we were just having a conversation about how did this all happen? How did you know that I belong to you and, you know, not this person? And so he was kind of giving me the backstory on that. So it's just me, for my personal journey, me wanting to know more about the situations growing up.
I think that's dope that you're pursuing it. I think that's a natural flow of life, right? We kind of circle back to things that we still have questions about, and we want to know more about ourselves. Did your biological and the father that raised you always know about each other?
Mm-hmm. They all grew up in the same town.
Really?
They grew up in the same town, and they had, from my understanding, a few encounters before I was born and right after I was born, because my mom was going back and forth, basically.
Yeah.
So she really wanted to be with my biological, but the kind of lifestyle that he had, my grandmother wasn't approving of it. So my dad had a job. My biological was a drug dealer. So my grandmother was like, no, it's not happening.
Yeah.
And I believe that 100% because she butts in.
Yeah.
You know, so so they live like a couple of blocks from each other, and they had regular toxic going on. Can I say that?
Yeah, it's out there now.
Okay.
So how did when your mother passed, what was the dynamic like between you and them two?
My biological was in jail at the time.
Okay. He
had just went back to jail, and to this day he blames himself for everything that happened because he wasn't home.
Wow.
Because they were together before he went to jail. But he didn't know that they didn't know he was going to get that much time. And I don't even remember how many years it was, but they didn't even know he was going to get that much time.
Got it.
So they thought like he's going to turn himself in. He might be out in 60 days kind of thing. And that never happened. So my mom was murdered by her boyfriend at the time. Because once she wasn't with my biological and some time had went by, she was with another guy. Not my dad, just another guy. You know, and so
wait, hold on. The host was not ready. No.
Okay.
I'm saying I'm trying to process all of the things that your mother was murdered by who?
Her boyfriend at the time. So let's see. Let's say in let me try to timeline it for you. In 95, early 95, my biological went back to jail.
Okay.
He got time. Maybe late 95, she gets with this guy who we know nothing about. He moved from a different state, whatever. So he came in to live with us. I mean, everything. And then they would fight and stuff like that. And May 96, he killed her.
So let's back up for a bit and paint kind of the backdrop of the environment, the city, the neighborhood. Were these normal occurrences? Were you surrounded by violence in your younger years? What did it look like?
But not so much. I don't even think it was so much violence with man on woman, just violence, period.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say we really lived in a hood. It was just like a regular neighborhood with regular people. Okay. We all didn't have much, but that's just where we live, you know? And you saw different fights and different things like that might have happened.
Yeah.
But that kind of chaos I didn't see until it hit my house.
Wow. And you're 9 years old.
I was about 8 when everything was. Yeah.
Where do you fit in the order of your siblings?
I'm the oldest. I'm my mom's first child.
Wow.
And I have my brother who is 2 years under me, and my sister who was a twin. Well, who is a twin? One of the twins passed away. They're 4 years under me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
imagine me trying to play mom after.
That's what I was gonna ask. Yeah, that's what I had. Like, what was that shift of pressure like to you at that age? That's a lot of responsibility.
The pressure came a little later.
Okay.
Because at first it was just more of a shock. And so it was no pressure or nothing because I'm like, I don't even really understand what happened. Yeah. I left for a weekend to go with my dad. We come back. We don't have the other parent, you know?
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait. Wait.
You want me to break it all the way down
No,
for
it's
you?
not like I know you backed up to give me the timeline, but these, it's not enough that it happened, but it was a very normal, I would suspect, visitation, right? You went to the other.
Yeah, we would go by our dad on the weekends.
Yeah.
So every Friday we would leave after school, and we would come back Sunday evening.
Yeah.
In enough time to,
Get ready
for school the next day. So it was just a normal weekend.
That was the expectation. That, like, this is the normal.
But they would fight all the time, like fist fight. Not just like arguing that you can hear on the other side of the wall.
Wow.
But fighting.
So I respectfully, even as you recall it now, there's like this. Hear me out. It's like a tone of normalcy. Like,
to me,
like it was things were going on as regular. Like, they weren't like this was the environment. This is how it was, and this is what I was used to.
I don't even know what to say about that, except for that's what I was used to.
Yikes.
I didn't think it was okay.
Yeah.
But when we were growing up, we were always taught, and I think it's just the worst thing ever, what goes on in this house stays in this house.
In this house, man.
So I couldn't even say anything. And then I learned later on that my mom had reached out to other people and, tried to get help or whatever. But she had to remove herself from that situation on her own time. And apparently that's what happened. Because again, I'm asking all these questions as I get older.
Yeah.
So she leaves him for the last time, and then he came back in to do what he did. So how
does that impact you today, and not in an insensitive manner that you lost a parent? I know what I understand. I haven't lost a parent. What I understand, that never goes away. So I'm not asking, are you over it? I'm not asking that at all. But how do you process things today through that lens of what you saw growing up?
I never want to put myself in that predicament. And me not wanting to put myself in that predicament, because it's either you go away from what you saw or you go right into what you saw. So I had to go to therapy because technically I was the aggressor.
Really?
Yeah. And it's not nothing that I'm proud of. And it's not nothing that went far or anything like that, but I realized what I was doing and immediately started backing out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that way, in my relationships or whatever. I just don't want to be that way.
What was it, a sense of it's going to be you, not me? Like, before you can have that me in that situation?
It was like, don't even, if you're gonna argue, first of all, I don't even want to argue, but I can. So if you want to argue, stand over there and do it. Because if you're standing right here, then I feel a ways. So it was like a trigger kind of thing. So I couldn't handle the arguing. But I didn't even know all of these things until I became an adult and got into a relationship, because this happened when I was a kid. So it took for me to go to therapy. Of course, I understood why I was doing it, but it still took for me to go to therapy to unfold everything. And to really understand that you're just mimicking everything that you saw. And that's what I tried my whole life not to do.
Yeah. At any point, were you always a relationship person all throughout your life? Or was there a period where you weren't interested because of what you saw?
It wasn't that I wasn't interested because of what I saw. I tried to make better decisions with relationships, with the men that I dealt with.
Yeah.
That was literally it, because by nature, I love love. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Like, I'm not gonna not be in a relationship because of that, because I like being in a relationship,
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to be careful.
So what did that, because I love love. I love that you said I love
love.
It's a whole bunch of love. A whole bunch of love going on. Where did that piece of it come from? If that wasn't what you always saw model, at least in the home, with the
because
other
my
relationships?
mom loved love.
Hopeless romantic type?
Yeah. So, and that's the part. So I made a decision, like, okay, take the good parts from her, believe the bad stuff. That's what I tried to do anyway.
Yeah.
It took time for me to get there completely. And I'm not even all the way done, but That was the part of her that I took on. The, like you said, the hopeless romantic, the writing, the poems, and stuff like that. Like that was what I wanted to take from her and embrace, because that's how I wanted to remember her.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Writing and poems, was that a release?
It was.
Is it still a release?
Yeah. And I don't do it as much as I should, but I did say that I was going to get back into it.
Yeah. What is there any part of you that thinks things would have been different?
The whole part of me thinks things would have been different if she was still here. I think about that all the time. Anytime anything goes left, anytime just don't go right. It's like, bruh, I would not have to deal with this if, you know, my mom was here. I just don't have that outlet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I have my dad, but my dad is like super protective. So it's like a lot of things that bother me, I don't like to tell him, because I don't want him to react a certain way.
Yeah. So there's a very, I would characterize your relationship with your father as loving but delicate, right? There's certain things that are triggers for you, triggers for him. How does that impact the woman, right? To have that guarded piece of the relationship where you need a part of your dad that you just can't access, right? Because like a lot of women listen to this podcast too, a lot of men listen to it, but I want men to understand our dynamic. Yeah. Like what we do, what we cause, what our actions, how they impact, right? Because sometimes we take ourselves away from the situation so that we don't have to think about it. So I want people that are investing time into this conversation to understand like what.
It's hard for me because I always felt like I had to carry everything, the whole load. My mama left. It's like, all right, now everybody's taking care of us, but I have to take care of them, my siblings. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Then now I feel like I have to take care of my dad. You know, I mean, his feelings, his everything. Yeah. So it makes you feel like you always have to carry everything, and it turned me into a control freak, basically. Wow. So I had to control everything. I feel like I had to control everything. You know, I still feel like that with a lot of things.
What's your family dynamic today? I know you're a mom.
So it's my husband, myself, and we have 4 kids.
4 kids. What ages are the kids?
14, 9, 7, 2.
She did that way better than me. I got to take a pause. Every time I start talking about my kids, I got to pause to get the order right, remember what year it is.
Let me tell you, I forgot because my son's birthday just passed a couple of weeks ago, and I put 8 on the cake, not realizing he was 9, and my daughter was like, wow, so you don't know? I'm like, listen, at this point, it's too many of y'all. Right. Look. At the end of the day, he got the cake he wanted. The number just wrong. It's okay.
Yeah. Technically, he's 8. He's more than 8.
You know what I'm saying? So I get it. I get it.
What did you say? How many boys? How many girls?
2 boys, 2 girls.
2 boys.
My daughter is the oldest, a 14-year-old. Okay. I have my 2 boys in the middle, and then I have my youngest daughter, who's the 2-year-old.
Okay. What is it like for you to parent boys, and is it different than?
Yes, the girls.
Yeah.
The boys are so loving. The boys, especially my oldest son, like they just love their mom. Yeah. It is what it is. Like I love my mom. The girls like whatever. Yeah. Whatever. My oldest daughter, she don't want to have no parts of nothing because she's 14. But my youngest daughter, she's pretty clingy. But I have to parent everybody super different. Yeah. But the boys, yeah. Because my oldest son, he don't really give me any issues. It's my youngest son and the little one. That's
Yeah, they trying to figure out those boundaries. Do you find yourself, what's the right word? Sorry. Nervous or timid about certain conversations with your daughters because of what?
No. We're going to have them. Yeah. Because my mom had them with me. She didn't have like, I didn't like what goes on in his house stays in his house, but I did like the fact that we talked about sex way before I started having, like, of course, you know, before she passed away. We talked about all of these things.
Oh, you wow. Know? So like at 8, 9, 7, 8, wow.
Yeah, we had these talks. We would sit in the car sometimes. We sit outside on the steps. She made sure to have certain conversations with me that would be hard for anybody else to have with me. You know,
it's hard. I'm just, as a man with sons, I find myself dancing around topics before I go. Like I don't just go right into topics
And I do.
because I didn't get that growing up, right? And
Right.
it's in my story it was not as traumatic. My point is the conversations aren't always had, and the dynamic has very little to do with why these conversations are had.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm struggling with now. How does it impact your conversations with your boys when you're teaching them how to treat a woman? And I'm not dismissing your husband at all. I don't want to take for that.
But that's a good thing because they see no matter if him and I have anything going on or we're not really getting along, they still see how he treats me.
Yeah, that's
so big. I think that's a part of why they're so loving because even if we argue and are doing whatever, they don't get that part.
Yeah.
Now, it took a while to get there. You know, by the time, I want to say my oldest son, by the time he was like 2, we had kind of mellowed down with everything, with the arguing and stuff in front of the kids. Okay. So made it a priority not to do those kind of things. So having those...
So when you reference you were the aggressor earlier in the conversation, that was with your current husband?
That was with my current husband and... with so my 14-year-old is not biologically my husband's child. Okay. So with her dad as well, because that was the only 2 real relationships outside of like high school that I've really been in.
Yeah.
You know, so when they see that, it's easy to have those conversations with them.
Yeah.
You know, and you got one lover boy and the other one's like, I don't know, I might have a few girlfriends, but I'm like, no, that's not what we're gonna do.
Well,
you know?
but which one's
my
which?
oldest is very loving.
Okay.
He's like, you know, he wants a wife and he's not gonna cheat on her. He's not gonna treat her bad. You know, yeah. So that's how, you know, and he always says that he doesn't want to upset me. You know, so he's way ahead of his time. And my youngest, he's still very immature, so he doesn't even get it just yet. Yeah. But it's easy to have conversations with them. Like, I'll just start, whatever I want to say, I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
I'm very open and upfront, and I joke a lot, and I say things that other parents probably would not say in their house. And I use terminology that other people probably wouldn't use.
Right.
But I want my children to always know that I'm going to be upfront.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. And if it's something I think they can't handle, I'll wait until I feel like they can.
Yeah.
You know.
What's the most important characteristic that you rely on in your husband at this stage of your relationship? Like, what is that thing that sustains you, that you appreciate about him?
I think the fact that he just allows me to be who I am. He doesn't stand in the way of anything, any of my goals, any of my traveling, not even my parenting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He might tell me every once in a while, like, he didn't like the way I handled one of the kids, or, you know, next time do this, or I wouldn't have done it like that. Yeah. But for the most part, he does not interfere with whatever I'll have going on. So I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. What do you think is the ideal you? I assume that you're still working on yourself, working through some things. What does success look like for you as you're becoming, right? That's the word, right?
Right,
as
you're becoming.
What does it look like for you? Like, what is that thing like? I like where I'm at. If I could just, when I get this under control, or when I get this thing.
Success is being able to have a whole team of people around me to take care of everything that I have going on, and me being able to be home more in a bigger house.
Yeah.
You know, with just being home.
Yeah.
And being able to not have to miss any games, or not have to miss it, just being home.
Yeah.
But I don't like to say that, because I want to be still successful.
Yeah.
But I just want it to all flow.
Yeah.
And I don't have to always put my hands on everything every day.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that's what it looks like for me.
Yeah, it sounds like you got the right support system in your home. I love it when, just for me, something I had to learn how to be supportive of my wife.
Yeah.
Right, cause y'all be changing. I mean, we be changing too, but y'all be changing.
We do.
And I had to set my pride aside and realize that she gave up a lot for me to go chase these things, and now she's at a stage in her life where she's looking for that get back. Like, yo, is it my turn? That kind of thing. So I get it. Salute to him for being supportive
and that's one thing I have to give him. We're not in the best space right now. We're not. You know, I can say that honestly. But ever since day one, he's had my back with whatever it is that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I can't even front. I might not have liked the way sometimes some things were said. I might not have liked the way it was handled.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm still not allowed, but I'm just doing whatever I want to do, and and he's still supporting that. You know what I'm saying? Whether we get along or not, he's still supporting that because he knows where I'm on my way to. He knows that, and he does not want to. His words, he doesn't want to stand in the way of that. Yeah, you know. So I have to give him that. I have to give him that. You don't want that regret,
bro. You don't want that regret standing in their way. And that's cool. I appreciate you being honest. Like my wife and I have a podcast called Healthy Marriage is Dope. It's not Healthy Marriage is Perfect.
Right.
Like in full disclosure, we've done podcasts that never came out. It's like, that was for us.
I'm not saying that. I'm not putting that out.
Like, that was really for us to figure out and go do some work. So I love it. I want to be respectful of your time, but as we wind down, I want to end on the thing that I am very proud of that the people. Let me make sure the people can see. People can see. Is it Crown Collection?
It's Crown Me Collections. That's the original name. Yeah. And then we have all the Crown University and a crown and stuff like that.
Yeah. How did that come about, businesswoman?
So I like being comfortable. I like t-shirts. I like sweatpants. I like hoodies. I like everything that I sell. I like those things.
Right.
And I kind of I always want to create things. That's just been me. I just like to create. So I wanted to create something that represented myself and represented my family and stuff like that. Yeah. So I started coming up with ideas and different names and just, like, I literally just did it. Like, just try it. Let me just try and see what happens.
No prior experience, just...
Nothing. Yeah. Nothing. I didn't even consult with anybody.
I like it.
I didn't even consult. Like, I had like 50 logos because I kept changing it. The name I had to, and I liked Crown because of royalty and stuff like that. And that's what I wanted to represent, like, you know, royalty, but I wanted to be comfortable. And then I think one of my friends, she was like, well, what does it mean? I'm like, I don't know, it's, you know, but I had to go back. So I go back and I say, okay, if somebody's going to wear this, they have to know what they're wearing and they have to know what it represents. I think, you know, that makes people want to buy more. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I came up with the Kingdom Rises and Overcomes World Negativity to Embrace Destiny. And that's crowned. And so I actually put the definition on a shirt.
Hold tight. Was it immediately clear that was a reflection of your life?
No. It was afterwards, because I'll say something or write something down and I don't even know why at the time. And that happens so often. So I have to go back and be like, well, damn. You know, it's like, I don't know if God just puts the right words or the right whatever in my hands and I just write it down. It's all on paper.
Yeah, I think you do know.
Yeah. And I go back and I'm like, that kind of seemed like me.
That's fly.
You know?
That's fly. And I actually, if I was thinking I would have worn my suit today, we'd have been in solidarity.
It's all good. The love is still there. It's all good.
But no, I think it's a really, really dope line. To the women watching, women can do anything. In case you didn't know that, this is living proof. I'm just saying that people see you, people believe in you, and I know it's gonna go crazy if it ain't already.
It's like we at the medium point. I want this point. You know,
more.
The medium ain't doing it for me.
Bigger.
Yeah, I want this. Like, you know, but I'll continue to work on that and continue to do all the things that I need to do and just continue to overcome all the obstacles and to not be a statistic, because that's how I felt early on. Like, with everything that happened to me, I should not have been successful. You
should not have been successful.
I should not have been successful. And that's what I feed off of, that I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So it's like being a rebel. Like, you don't want me to be successful, but I'm going to be successful. So all good.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate the fact that we were in the same place at the same time.
Absolutely.
You are the first woman guest that I've had a conversation with on this platform, and the whole month is dedicated. I think I said it at the beginning, but
Yeah.
it is very helpful to have your perspective, sharing a glimpse into your story. I didn't want to go any deeper. I wasn't prepared to go any deeper, but what you've overcome, I'm sure will be inspiring, instrumental to many. And I hope it causes the men that are listening to take inventory of their actions.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes there's no excuse for it. But I'm sure there's some sign where they say red flags that happen
Red
along the way
flags,
that we
red
need to be,
flags,
as
yes.
men, we need to be more aware of.
Absolutely.
What triggers us before we get to that point of escalation from which you really can't return. When the damage is done, it's done.
Absolutely.
You may heal physically, but I think you get the message. Any partnership? How can they find you?
So you can find me on social media at the story behind the CEO podcast on Instagram. I'm sorry. And actually, what we talked about today, I'll be doing interviews solo.
Okay.
So people can know more about myself.
Yeah.
So eventually, the audience will get more of that story, and they'll get more into details. So you just got to stick around a little bit. But at the story behind the CEO podcast and at Crown Me Collections with a K on Instagram as well.
Fantastic. I'm not going to prolong it. We appreciate you guys. God bless you. Peace.
The Dear Son podcast is produced by D. John's Live Studios. All rights reserved.